The secret to rejuvenation: no fear for old age. The day will come for everyone to face their aging. Once upon a time, there was a quiet village in a corner of the world. A man named Jivita lived there. He had walked a long path of life, but the years had surely etched themselves into his body. Jivita had begun to ponder his own aging and health. As the end of his life approached, what was the meaning of living? What value was there in living a long life? His heart was about to be shrouded in questions and anxiety. However, the gears of life were about to move in an unexpected direction. There was still an unseen world waiting for Jivita. Breaking free from old values and encountering a new way of life. This story depicts the journey of an aging man in search of the true meaning of life. Longevity is not given equally to everyone. Health, too, can be lost at any time. However, what Jivita's steps may show is a signpost of hope. People can take new steps while accepting aging and illness. The meaning of longevity is not just living long, but perhaps in how one lives. Now let's open the door to Jivita's story. What lies ahead may be a world full of vitality that transcends aging. A journey to re-examine your own life is about to begin. In a small village in ancient India, there lived a man named Jivita. He was the village elder and a respected figure. However, his heart was filled with heaviness. Today, Jivita had turned 60 years old.
Despite having been born into this world for 60 years,
Jivita was looking back on his own life while muttering to himself. He was single and never had a family. He had been sickly since he was young and had been attacked by illness countless times and received treatment from doctors. He had somehow managed to keep himself alive, but the decline in his physical strength was undeniable.
I wonder how much time I have left.
Every time the villagers celebrated his longevity, Jivita's heart ached. He didn't know if living a long life was truly a happiness. As the shadow of aging crept up on him, he felt like he was losing sight of the purpose of living. Jivita's eyes suddenly lingered on his own hands. Wrinkled, bony hands. Those hands, once strong, now trembled weakly.
What have I grasped with these hands?
He asked himself. The dreams and hopes of his youth had somehow faded away. He had spent most of his life fighting illness. Jivita no longer knew what true happiness was. Sighing, he stood up. His feet staggered. Movements that were once taken for granted now took great effort.
Just living is all I can manage. Is this my life?
He turned his gaze to the sky. The expanse of the blue sky was in stark contrast to his heart.
What do I really want to do?
Jivita asked himself. What had he been seeking in his long life? He felt as if there was an unseen answer deep in his heart. Suddenly, he glanced at the village square. Children were running around innocently. As he watched their smiles, something warm spread in Jivita's heart.
To live. What is true happiness?
He murmured. Seeking an answer, Jivita's heart swayed quietly. Feeling the weight of 60 years, he was about to take a new step to find the meaning of life. In the anxiety of not seeing the end of his life, Jivita began to search for the meaning of living. His journey had only just begun. One day, Jivita was visiting the village market. Amidst the bustle of people, he was pondering the meaning of life. Suddenly, a strange rumor caught his ear.
Did you hear? There seems to be an immortal old monk in the neighboring village. Oh, that's an interesting story. I wonder what kind of person that old monk is.
The old men were talking excitedly. Jivita stopped and listened to their conversation.
They say he's over 100 years old, but he's as lively as a young man. There's someone like that? I wonder what kind of secret he has.
A small light lit up in Jivita's heart. The immortal old monk. Perhaps that person could teach him the meaning of life. As Jivita left the market and hurried home, he couldn't get the old monk out of his head. He looked back on his own life. 60 years had brought him many experiences, but at the same time left him with endless questions.
What does it mean to live? I still don't know.
Muttering to himself, Jivita entered his house. In the corner of the room, medicine prescribed by the doctor was piled up like a mountain. Memories of his long battle with illness crossed his mind.
Am I just waiting to rot away like this?
He asked himself. Now that he could see the end of his life, Jivita felt that he wanted to re-examine the way he lived. The immortal old monk. Those words planted a seed of hope in his heart. If there was someone who knew the secret to longevity, he wanted to meet them. He felt that strongly.
I should visit the old monk as soon as tomorrow.
Jivita decided. He set his mind on a journey to seek the meaning of life. Meeting the old monk might be a turning point that changes his life. With that premonition swelling in his chest, he quietly closed his eyes, with the courage to take a new step hidden in his heart. The next day, Jivita left the village. It was the beginning of a journey to find the immortal old monk. Along the way, he thought deeply about his own life. 60 years had brought him many experiences and wisdom, but he could not erase the emptiness deep in his heart.
What am I living for?
He asked himself. Days spent fighting illness. He had lived alone, never having a family. Was this really true happiness? After walking for half a day, Jivita found a small hut deep in the forest. Could that be the dwelling of the old monk he had heard rumors about? He felt something in the hut that stood quietly.
Excuse me.
In front of the entrance, Jivita called out timidly. Then, a gentle voice echoed from inside the hut.
Please come in.
Jivita stepped into the hut. In front of him sat a white-haired old monk. His face was covered with deep wrinkles, but his gaze was clear and conveyed strength.
I am Jivita from the neighboring village. I came wanting to learn the secret of longevity.
Jivita stated his business, feeling apologetic. The old monk smiled and slowly opened his mouth.
The secret to longevity is to have a sense of being alive.
A sense of being alive?
Jivita's eyes widened. The old monk continued to speak quietly.
Just breathing is not enough to say you are living. Feeling the joy of living from the heart and having a sense of being here now, that's what's important.
The old monk's words resonated deeply in Jivita's heart. The joy of living, the sense of the present. He may have lost that.
Then, is there no meaning in living a long life bedridden?
When Jivita asked, the old monk quietly shook his head.
Living and just breathing are different. I believe that living vibrantly is the meaning of life.
At those words, Jivita nodded.
Only when people can live healthily can they find the meaning of life. Only when you have a healthy body and mind can you gain a sense of being alive. Longevity is nothing but the accumulation of such fulfilling days.
The old monk continued.
For example, what meaning is there in living a long life bedridden? Living is not just breathing. It is precious only when you are healthy in both mind and body and can act on your own will.
Jivita was listening intently to the old monk's words. Longevity is not merely a matter of years. It is a question of how one lives.
Master, how can one lead a fulfilling life in old age?
When Jivita asked, the old monk turned a gentle gaze towards him.
What's important is how you live this moment. Not being trapped in the past, not fearing the future, just living this moment to the fullest. That is the secret to longevity and the essence of life.
Perhaps that is something one must find for oneself.
Thank you, Master. I will think about life once again.
Expressing words of gratitude, Jivita left the hut. The encounter with the old monk brought him a new perspective. Regaining the joy of living. That might become the path he aims for. Having returned to the village, Jivita decided to start a new life with the old monk's teachings in his heart. He retired from the job he had worked for many years and decided to devote himself to working in the fields.
By moving my body, I'll strengthen my legs and hips.
He muttered. He felt that moderate exercise was necessary to overcome his sickly constitution. Waking up with the morning sun, Jivita headed to the fields. Inhaling the scent of the earth fully into his chest, he silently immersed himself in the work. Tilling the soil, sowing seeds, and watering. His figure working while sweating was lively.
It's been a long time since I moved my body this much.
Jivita felt a pleasant fatigue. The joy of moving his body. That was something he had almost forgotten. As he worked diligently in the fields day by day, changes began to appear in Jivita's body. His muscles gained strength and luster returned to his skin. The villagers were watching his transformation with wonder.
Mr. Jivita, you seem to have rejuvenated somehow.
One day, a villager said that to him, and Jivita smiled. The old monk's teachings certainly seemed to be changing him. In between his work in the fields, Jivita also took up meditation. Time to quietly close his eyes and face his inner self. That became a precious moment for him.
The feeling of being alive.
In meditation, Jivita murmured, "The joy of living here now." He felt like he was starting to be able to feel that. His daily activities began to add new color to Jivita's life. The joy of moving his body, the feeling of being connected to the earth. He gradually found the meaning of life.
My life was not over yet.
Jivita muttered in his heart. Even after 60 years, his life was taking a new step forward. Jivita, who was regaining the joy of living. However, his journey still continues, for the shadow of aging will never leave him. One morning, Jivita was heading to the fields as usual, but his steps were heavy that day. He was feeling pain in his body from the previous day's work.
I guess I can't beat age.
Jivita gave a wry smile. Since starting his new life, he had felt an improvement in his physical strength. However, the shadow of aging was definitely following him. When he arrived at the field, he began to till the soil. But the pain in his body interfered with the work. Suddenly, his foot slipped due to inattention.
Ah!
At that moment, Jivita collapsed to the ground. Blood flowed from his knee. He tried to get up somehow, but his body wouldn't listen.
Pathetic. I can't be discouraged by something like this.
Jivita gritted his teeth. However, the blood wouldn't stop easily. An aged body becomes more susceptible to injury. Jivita slowly returned home and treated his wound. But the wound in his heart would not heal. Is aging unavoidable? Such worries were eating away at his heart.
Can I really change?
Jivita asked himself. Even though he had started a new life, the wall of aging felt high. He couldn't hide his confusion at the event that happened just as he thought he had found the meaning of life. For several days, Jivita spent time quietly at home. The wound on his body gradually healed, but the wound in his heart remained deep.
I can't go on like this.
He muttered. He remembered the old monk's teachings, feeling the joy of living. That's what's important,
I should visit the old monk again.
Jivita decided. He wanted to ask again for the way to face aging. He decided to head for the hut deep in the forest again. Everyone stumbles in life. What's important is not to be defeated by it. Jivita headed towards the old monk, seeking the strength to stand up once more. Surrounded by the silence of the forest, Jivita was heading towards the old monk's hut. Endless questions were swirling in his heart.
Master, it's been a while.
In front of the hut, Jivita called out timidly. Then the usual gentle voice came back.
Jivita, you've come. Is there something troubling you?
At the old monk's words, Jivita nodded. The incident in the field and the fear of aging. He spoke his mind without hiding anything.
I see. Aging comes to everyone, but there are ways to face it.
The old monk smiled and invited Jivita into the hut. The two sat facing each other, and the old monk began to speak.
There is a meditation method called anapanasati. By focusing your awareness on your breath, you calm your mind.
Anapanasati?
Jivita's eyes widened at the unfamiliar word. The old monk quietly continued his explanation.
It's a meditation method where you count your inhalations and exhalations. First, sit down and close your eyes. Then, breathe naturally.
Yes.
Following the old monk's words, Jivita slowly closed his eyes.
First, let's count your inhalations. 1, 2, 3. When you reach 10, start again from 1.
1, 2, 3.
Next, try counting your exhalations. When you get used to it, count inhaling and exhaling as 1, up to 10.
Jivita focused his awareness on his breath. Inhale, exhale. He quietly immersed himself in that repetition.
By counting the inhalations and exhalations, you gather your scattered mind and unify it in stillness. It may sound easy when you hear it like this, but it's not quite so in practice. If stray thoughts arise, let them go. Return your awareness to your breath.
Under the old monk's guidance, Jivita continued to meditate. Before he knew it, his mind was becoming tranquil. The fear of aging, the pain of stumbling, they started to feel distant.
By continuing anapanasati, your mind will become at ease. Lifespan cannot be avoided, but you can cultivate the mental strength to face aging.
After a while, the old monk spoke. Jivita nodded deeply. Anapanasati, it might become a new light of hope for him.
Thank you, Master. I will practice Anapanasati.
Expressing words of gratitude, Jivita left the hut. In his clenched fist, the wisdom taught by the old monk resides. Having returned to the village, Jivita immediately began practicing Anapanasati. As a morning and evening habit, he quietly devoted himself to meditation, focusing awareness on the breath. It seemed simple, but it was a profound practice.
1, 2, 3.
In the beginning, when he was unaccustomed, the voice counting numbers quietly echoed in the room. Jivita entrusted himself to the flow of his breath. Stray thoughts arose and disappeared. He was beginning to listen to his inner voice. Even in between his work in the fields, Jivita practiced Anapanasati. Sitting on the earth, closing his eyes. The rustle of the wind, the chirping of birds. Feeling the breath of nature, he directed his awareness to his breath.
To be alive is to be here now.
Suddenly, such words came to his mind. Through Anapanasati, Jivita was beginning to taste the feeling of being alive. The old monk's teachings were steadily changing Jivita. The fear of aging was gradually fading. He was beginning to realize the importance of living in the present. Jivita, who had gained the new practice of Anapanasati, his life had taken another step forward. Now that he had the means to face aging, how would he live from now on? Jivita's figure, diligently practicing Anapanasati, was filled with a quiet strength. His journey is not over yet. The quest to seek the meaning of life continues. Having mastered Anapanasati, Jivita diligently meditated every day without fail. Waking up with the rising sun, he would sit quietly and direct his awareness to his breath.
1, 2, 3.
He counted the number of breaths in his mind and gradually became calm. Even when stray thoughts skimmed his mind, Jivita learned to let them go, returning awareness to the breath. In that repetition, he was beginning to listen to his inner voice. The daily meditation began to bring change to Jivita. His figure working diligently in the fields was more lively than ever before. The strength of tilling the soil, the care of sowing seeds. In all of it, one couldn't help but feel the pulsation of life.
Mr. Jivita, you seem even more energetic lately.
The villagers began to notice his further change. Jivita just smiled, but he couldn't hide his inner joy. As he continued to meditate, Jivita was coming to face his own breath. Inhale, exhale. He was coming to feel a sense of awe in that activity, the proof of life.
Being alive may be something like a miracle.
Such thoughts gently enveloped Jivita's heart. The joy of living, the time he could feel that was becoming irreplaceable to him. The practice of anapanasati brought new realizations to Jivita. By directing awareness to the breath, he learned to cherish this very moment.
There's no point in being trapped in the past or fearing the future. What matters is that we are here now.
Jivita murmured in his heart. Lifespan may be unavoidable, but he was beginning to realize that there is meaning in living in the present. With each meditation, Jivita's mind became more serene. A mysterious tranquility was beginning to drift around him. The villagers were wondering about Jivita's change. However, everyone couldn't help but feel their hearts soothed by the peaceful atmosphere emanating from him. Jivita continued the practice of meditation. Days with the breath. It was giving new meaning to his life. Jivita, who was beginning to find inner peace. However, the path of meditation is not smooth. He would face further trials. Jivita, who practiced anapanasati and began to find peace of mind. However, the path of meditation didn't always go as he wished. There were days when stray thoughts disturbed his mind, and it was difficult to concentrate his awareness on his breath.
What should I do?
Jivita was troubled. When he felt stuck in his meditation, he decided to visit the old monk's hut again.
Master, there are times when my meditation doesn't go well.
The old monk smiled gently at Jivita, who confided his troubles.
The path of meditation is never smooth. Everyone feels stuck at times.
At the old monk's words, Jivita nodded.
What's important is not to give up. Even if you're swayed by stray thoughts, return your awareness to your breath. That repetition is what trains the mind.
The old monk continued to speak quietly. Jivita listened to those words.
Meditation is a journey to face yourself. The path is different for each person. Jivita, walk at your own pace.
Receiving the old monk's guidance, Jivita renewed his approach to meditation. Even when he felt stuck, he didn't give up, returning awareness to the breath. In that repetition, he gradually moved forward. The dialogues with the old monk became a great support for Jivita, confiding his troubles and receiving guidance. Through that master-disciple relationship, he stepped into the depths of meditation.
The master's words always resonate in my heart.
Jivita felt a sense of gratitude. The old monk who taught him how to face aging. His existence had become irreplaceable to him. Jivita's figure, diligently meditating, grew more dignified day by day. Even when faced with difficulties, he continued to walk forward. With the old monk's guidance in his heart, he carved out his own path.
I realized that the moments with the breath are irreplaceable time.
One day, Jivita said that to the old monk. He couldn't help but feel deep gratitude for the smiling figure of the old monk. The practice of meditation and the old monk's guidance. Supported by those two wheels, Jivita steadily grew. His meditation was beginning to take on a new depth. With the old monk's teachings in his heart, Jivita aims for even greater heights. His journey of meditation still continues. Receiving the old monk's guidance, Jivita continued to practice meditation. Days immersed in anapanasati. It was beginning to bring gradual changes to his mind and body. One morning, Jivita woke up as usual, stood in front of the mirror, and gazed at his own figure.
This is...
He couldn't believe his eyes. His face in the mirror looked younger than before. The deep wrinkles had faded, and a healthy color had returned to his cheeks.
Mr. Jivita, you've become so much younger lately.
The villagers, too, were beginning to notice his change. Every time they met Jivita, everyone started pointing out his rejuvenation.
It might be thanks to anapanasati.
Jivita was humble, but he couldn't completely hide his inner joy. The effects of meditation were certainly beginning to show. Among the villagers, Jivita's rejuvenation was a topic of conversation.
Mr. Jivita is over 60 years old, but he doesn't look a day over 50. No, I think he looks around 40.
The people's astonished voices spread throughout the village. Jivita's change was evident to everyone's eyes. Jivita himself also felt the changes in his body. The lightness of his body when he woke up in the morning, the endurance of his physical strength in the field work. He was becoming less prone to fatigue than before.
Anapanasati seems to heal not only the mind but also the body.
He felt a sense of wonder. The power of meditation was far beyond his imagination. The signs of rejuvenation brought new hope to Jivita's life. Accepting aging was the biggest challenge for him. But now he was gaining the strength to face that challenge.
I feel that life still has a long way to go.
Jivita murmured. Through meditation, he was regaining the joy of living. A year passed, and Jivita's rejuvenation had progressed even further. On his 61st birthday, he gave the impression of being in his 40s.
Mr. Jivita, how do you plan to spend your life from now on?
One day, when asked by a villager, Jivita smiled quietly.
I want to cherish the joy of living and live each moment to the fullest.
His words were filled with deep determination. Jivita, who had achieved rejuvenation through meditation, his life was about to enter a new chapter. On his 61st birthday, he made a certain decision.
I'm thinking of getting married.
Jivita confided to the old monk. For him, who had remained single for many years, it was a big decision.
Oh, that's a good thing. Having a partner in life is a great joy.
The old monk smiled and supported Jivita's decision. Upon returning to the village, Jivita conveyed his feelings to the woman he had long cared for.
Would you walk the path of life with me?
He confessed with sincere feelings. The woman was surprised but accepted Jivita's proposal.
With you, Mr. Jivita, I'd be happy to.
At the woman's words, Jivita's heart was filled with great happiness. The whole village celebrated Jivita's marriage. Everyone was moved by the sight of him starting a new life at the age of 61.
Mr. Jivita, please be happy. We sincerely celebrate the beginning of your life together.
Surrounded by the warm words of the villagers, Jivita felt a sense of gratitude. Everyone was rejoicing in the turning point of his life. On the day of the wedding, Jivita was enveloped in happiness. The figure of the groom shone like a young man.
I vow to live together with this person.
At the sight of the couple exchanging their vows, the attendees shed tears of emotion. A new chapter in Jivita's life was about to begin. During the ceremony, Jivita spotted the old monk. He felt deep gratitude for his figure offering words of blessing.
Thanks to you, Master, I can walk a new life.
Jivita offered his gratitude to the old monk in his heart. After the wedding, Jivita began living with his wife in a new home. They tilled the fields together and shared meals. Such mundane daily life was the ultimate happiness for him.
Being able to live with you, that is my joy.
Jivita's expression as he nestled close to his wife was filled with peace. Meditation had become a part of Jivita's life. The time the couple devoted to Anapanasati. For the two of them, it was an irreplaceable moment.
Feeling the breath together. I think that's what connects us.
At his wife's words, Jivita nodded deeply. Meditation was making the bond between them even deeper. The years flowed by, and Jivita reached the age of 70. However, his youthfulness showed no signs of waning. The villagers had begun to call him the immortal Jivita.
I am not immortal. I just know the joy of living in the present.
Jivita spoke humbly. His philosophy of life was beginning to influence many people. One day, the old monk visited Jivita's house.
You are walking the path of meditation admirably.
The old monk spoke with satisfaction.
This is all thanks to you, Master. Thank you for guiding me.
Jivita bowed deeply to the old monk, the benefactor who taught him the art of living. His existence was irreplaceable to him. After conversing with the old monk, Jivita watched the sunset with his wife. Their hearts were filled with the tranquil sky.
Our life will continue on and on.
Jivita held his wife's hand and spoke quietly.
Yes, let's walk together.
His wife also smiled happily. The sun sets and the stars begin to twinkle. Jivita's heart was enveloped in deep peace. He now knew what it meant to truly live. Jivita, who had begun to walk a new life, His story enters a new chapter from here. The man who overcame aging and found the joy of living. His way of life was becoming the hope of many people. And Jivita's life continues on and on. Together with his wife, he would accumulate the years while sharing the joy of living. Jivita's story gives us many profound lessons. First and foremost, it teaches us the importance of living in the present in life. Through meditation, Jivita learned the significance of directing awareness to the present moment. Rather than being trapped in the past or fearing anxiety about the future, living this moment with all one's might. That was the essence of the joy of living that he discovered. Secondly, it shows us the significance of facing oneself without giving up. The path of meditation was not smooth. Jivita experienced setbacks many times, but he never gave up. Continuing to face oneself. That's what led him to growth. Thirdly, it teaches us the fact that we never know when a turning point in life will come. Jivita, who had reached the age of 60 and felt that the end of his life was near, had his life transformed by his encounter with meditation. We never know when we will encounter new possibilities. That's why it's important to always maintain an attitude of continuous learning. Fourthly, it conveys the message that people can change. Jivita had lived a sickly life for 60 years. However, through meditation, he achieved rejuvenation in both mind and body. People are not incapable of change. Continuing to make efforts without giving up. That is the key to opening the door to change. Lastly, it teaches us that the meaning of life is something one finds for oneself. Jivita had lost sight of the meaning of life for a long time. However, through his encounter with meditation and the old monk, he found the meaning of life for himself. The meaning of life is not given by others. It is something one seeks and finds for oneself. That may be the most important lesson this story conveys to us. Jivita's story gives us deep insights. Finding the joy of living in the present while facing aging and death. That message will strike the hearts of many people across the ages. His journey should be an opportunity for each and every one of us to re-examine the meaning of our own lives.